What's happening, y'all? Music and mental health family. Happy Sunday. I hope that everybody's weekend is going well. I am pretty good. I'm tired, but I'm recovering. I'm recovering from a race that I did yesterday, a Spartan race actually, in the Poconos. So, a cool thing happened that I didn't even know happened, which was 2 days ago. Spartan Race featured me on their page. And you can actually go on their Facebook page and you can go on their Instagram page. It'll probably be easier to find on their Facebook page, but I'm on there. I did a race, Spartan Race City Field, which is the race where you run through City Field and go up and through the stadium and everything. It's a pretty cool race. And it's one that I have done like 6 times now. I've done 5 of them in City Field in New York, and I did one of them in Philly in Citizens. I keep getting the order mixed up. Citizens Park Bank. I don't know if it's Citizens Bank Park or Citizens Park Bank, but I think it's the second one. But anyways, I've done 6 of those. I made a post like I always do after I finish my races. I don't even really actually remember what I said in that post, but then so I got this thing in my email from Spartan that was like, congratulations on winning the free Spartan Race Friday. Here's the code for your free race. And I was like, free race? Is this a scam? I think I even responded to the Spartan page like that. Like, is this legitimate? So I went and tested the code, and sure enough, the code works. And if anyone knows about Spartan races, those things are expensive. They can be up to like over $150 depending on when you pay for it. Like over $150 for one of those races. So I was like, okay, I got a code. That's pretty cool. But what was even cooler to me, shared a page and they featured it on their page. So I thought that was pretty dope. I've been sharing it since the time I realized that they did that. I realized 2 days later I'm sleeping on things that are happening for me. So y'all know I love races. So nothing, not too many things would make me more excited than finding out that I got featured on one of the race pages of the obstacle course race that I have done the most since I started doing those. And then on top of that, getting a free race. They need to make me like some kind of partner or ambassador or something. But regardless, it was an unexpected but pleasant surprise that I'm happy about. Now, I also wanted to use this time as an opportunity to talk about the race, which I was planning to do sometime today, anyways, to tell y'all how the race went. I know that not everyone in my audience knows what a Spartan race is. So, what is an obstacle course race? It's basically they create a course and they make the course a certain amount of distance, like a 5K, a 10K, 5 miles, 10 miles, whatever the distance is. So you're running that distance, but within that run, they put obstacles there for you to do in between, like carrying cinder blocks or carrying sandbags, um, rope climbs, crossing monkey bars, things of that nature. They put those in the middle of the race. So when I signed up for this Poconos race, I knew that the mountains would be an element of the race. Oh, hold on. Sorry, y'all. I didn't even realize there's comments because I was on the wrong tab. Hi, Colleen. Hi, Cass. And hi, Ed. So, yeah, so I was going through the race, and I know that obviously doing a race in the Poconos Mountains, I know that the mountain was going to be an element of the race. I was very aware of that. I just did not realize how big of an element of this race that it was actually going to be. And in fact, it was most of the race. So I signed up for it. I was very confident in my ability to do this race because I've done 4 races that involved mountains before. I did like 2 races at Bear Mountain, and I think I did like another 2 upstate races. I did 2 Spartan Trails, which is a race that just involves basically running up a mountain and running through the woods. And I did a race called Terrain Race, and I did a race called Muddy Dash, and those all involve mountains. And I've just done so many of these in general that I was like, no problem. It's not like I'm not in the best shape of my life or anything, but I was like, I've never started one of these races and not finished them. So how hard could it be? What I didn't do was anticipate the extreme heat that we were going to have yesterday. In addition to the heat being like 95 degrees plus, the elevation and the steepness of this mountain. So the first mile of this race is just walking up the mountain. And I don't mean walking up the mountain on like a path or a trail or something like that. I mean, rocks flying under your shoes while you're walking up this mountain. Um, you slipping and trying to keep your grip while the sun is just beaming down on you like crazy. So I remember I started walking and I was like, okay, I felt like I was about halfway up the mountain. I was halfway to the peak. That's where I thought that I was. Because your depth perception, once you start to get up high enough, there was a point in time you get to the point. I wish I had had my GoPro camera with me, even though I don't know if I would have even ended up using it. But you look up and you can't see the top, and you look down and you can't see the bottom. So you have no idea of where you actually are in this race. So I remember I was like, okay, I found this little shaded area by some bushes, and I went and sat over in the shady area to cool down a little bit, and also to get catch my breath because, like I said, I was doing a really steep incline on this mountain, so I was tired also. So I was like, all right, I caught my breath, I cooled down a little bit, so now I'm ready to tackle this second half of the mountain. So I start walking again, walking and I'm walking and I'm walking, and I'm sweating buckets because the air is so thin and it's so humid. Even if I just stood there in one spot and didn't walk, even that was difficult because yeah, I've never done anything in that kind of extreme heat except for lay on a beach. Like the last time I remember being in that kind of heat, I think I was in Mexico on a beach somewhere. But just like doing exercise and climbing a mountain in that kind of heat, that was crazy. So I have never quit a race before out of however many of these that I've done. ID and hi Colleen. I think I saw Colleen. Out of how I think I've done at least I probably have done more than 50 races if I counted all my races together. I've probably done more than 50. I've lost count of how many that I've done. And I've never even considered quitting. This one, I considered quitting so many times as I was going up that mountain. I was like, I need to call the medic. I need to call the medic so they can just drive up here in the cart and take me back down because I'm dehydrated. My legs are in pain, my quads, my everything, my feet, my knees, like everything is just in some serious pain. And I did not know where the top was. It's like we keep walking, and where's the top of the mountain? There's no water stations, there's no volunteers. Me and a group of others got to a point where we were just walking as much as we could until we could find the next shaded area, and then we would all sit in the shade together and try to regroup ourselves to walk a little bit more. Like I did this race in pieces. This was not a race that I was I was moving consecutively and just getting to everything. And the other part of it, I was like, is there going to be some obstacles here at some point? Because this is an obstacle course race after all. So obstacles should have been a part of this race. Now, this is the crazy thing. I finally willed my way, little by little, to get close to the top of this mountain. I could see the top of the mountain and I could see the people at the top and I could see the water station at the top, which I badly needed. The water station must have been about 50 feet away from me. And that doesn't sound very far, right? And it wasn't very far. But it reminded me of one of those cartoons where somebody was just like one of the cartoons was walking through the desert and they see they see like, oh, there's this cactus, like it was right there in front of me. And I said to myself, I'm finally at the top of the mountain. It's just a few steps away, and then I can hydrate, and then I can get my life together to continue this race. And I took like 2 or 3 steps, and I was like, oh my God, it's right there. It's right there, but I don't have the energy to even get to this water station. So I sat right there on that mountain. There was like a rock that I could sit on. So I sat on this big rock and I sat on it for like 5 minutes. And I was like, Mark, the next time you get up, you better get to that water station. You better get to that water station. So I got up and I went to the water. I did make it to the water station. And there was an obstacle right next to the water station. So there was a line for the obstacle and there was a line for the water station. And I didn't know where one began and the other ended. And by the time I realized that, so I had basically ended up skipping a bunch of people in line for the water. There was this lady next to me, in front of me, and she looked back at me because I was looking around confused. She was like, "What happened? What's the matter?" I was like, "The line that I'm standing in right now, is this the line for the water or for the obstacle course? I mean, for the obstacle." And she was like, "This is the water line." And I was like, "Oh my, are you serious?" She was like, "Yeah." I said, this might have been dramatic, but I was like, if I have to go to the back of this line, I'm going to die. It was definitely dramatic, but I felt like it was true at the time. I wasn't just saying that just to say it. I felt like if I didn't get water in my system right that second, I was going to just pass out and collapse, and somebody was going to cart me off of there. So she was like, "Oh, don't worry about it. She said, you can stand in front of me. Don't worry about that." So she let me stand in front of her. I must have downed like 6 to 8 full cups of water. Usually, when I'm doing these races and I get to a water station, at the most, I would drink like 2 cups of water. I took like 6 to 8, and then I took another 2 or 3 and poured them over my head. It wasn't even cold water. It's just like I just needed water in general. Imagine you walk a mile up a mountain in 95-degree weather and the first water station is after a mile. I got to tell y'all, not everybody made it to the top of that mountain. I have never been at a race where so many medics were called, so many people were disqualified for not being able to finish, so many people were carted off the course. There were so many people sitting down contemplating their lives, including me, because I have exercise anxiety. I don't experience it too much indoors anymore, but I do experience it for sure in extreme heat. And I especially experienced it. I said especially. I hate when people say that and I said it. I especially, I especially experienced it in situations that I don't have control over. And at one point where I was somewhere in the middle of this mountain and I couldn't see the top of the mountain and I couldn't see the bottom of the mountain, my anxiety started going crazy because I was like, what if something happens to me here? how are the paramedics going to get to me? Like, I'm like, I feel like quitting the race, but if I say that I want to quit, how is that going to happen? How's that going to take place? Are they even going to be able to find me? Like, so many things were going through my head, and I was having pretty, I would say, mild to moderate panic attacks. It wasn't the most major ones I've ever received, but having a panic attack on a mountain is not fun. So, anyways, yeah, getting to the top felt like a big accomplishment. Once I got the water, I felt much better with the water in my system because, trust me, the hydration, they should have had hydration stations like every 5 minutes from the time you start, based on the temperature and the fact that we were actually in a heat advisory. We're still in one. I just can't believe I actually was able to do something like that at high noon. So once I got the a bunch of water and I drank a bunch of water, now I saw the sign that said I'm 1 mile into the race. The race was a 3 miler. So somebody saw me look at that sign and shake my head because I felt like I had already walked 10 miles. 5K, not all 5Ks are created equal. 5K on the ground, just like running on the ground, I can finish that in at my best. I have finished a 5K run in like 22 minutes. 5K going up and down and through a mountain. This race took me almost 3 hours. It was probably the most grueling thing that I have ever done physically, like in this life. And I didn't think that I was going to be saying way down, I will say was much better. I'm not going to say it was easy, but it was much easier than the way up. Well, number one, obviously going down is better than going up just because of gravity. And secondly, going down, they took us through an area of the woods. So we were going through the woods, which had all these different trees. So it was shaded. The sun was not bearing down on us on the way down. The hard part about it though was after walking up the mountain, then they put all the obstacles there on the way down, which was like carrying 60-pound sandbags down the mountain. They had some monkey bars. What else did they have? They had some climbing apparatuses that you had to climb. They had the rope climb that you had to carry from point A to point B. But it's just that your energy is so sapped just from the climb in and of itself. Um, they call that race Spartan Sprint, but there was no sprint about it. And it was no joke. And I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it heavily today. That's about it. I mean, I hate to say this as I'm shouting out Spartan Race for providing me a free race and featuring me on my page. I'm so grateful for that. Thank you, Spartan Race. But I don't think that I'm ever going to go to the Poconos to do something like that again. I have a video that I'm going to post of when I was there and when I gave my recap. I wanted to do a live recap, but I'm going to post my actual video recap of while I was there. But yeah, I don't think that I'm ever going to do that particular course again. I have two Spartan races left that I'm going to do this year, but I'm never doing the Poconos one again. If I go to the Poconos again, it's probably going to be in the winter, and I'm going to be going up the ski lodge like some of the spectators did. The spectators got to go up to the top on the ski lodge, and then like if they had a family member or friend that was racing or something, they were able to just go to the top and like wait for them under a tent. And I'm like, that must be the sweet life. There was people that were waving to us. There was people that were waving to us going up the ski lodge because we could see them going over top of us while we were climbing this mountain on foot. I had never seen anything like that in my life. That is crazy. I worked outside all day. Yeah, I'm not an outdoor person like that. Like contrary to popular belief, I like being out, but I don't like being out in heat like that. Being out in like really hot temperatures. The only time I can think of that I really like that is, like I said, being by the beach because it's not the same. But having to do exercise when it's really hot outside, not for me. No, this was not today. This was yesterday. And actually, I had I don't remember what they're called, but those things that you clip on, and they have the water pouch. I had one of those. I mean, not had. I have one of those. I bought it like months ago because I was planning to use it for a certain race, and then I never ended up using it. And I had it in my house that morning, and one of my friends was like, "Make sure you bring that because they do not have an adequate amount of water for you on the course." So, and he was like, "You're leaving at high noon, so that's gonna be like the hottest time of the day. So make sure you bring your like your water backpack, whatever they're called." And I was trying to fiddle with it, and then it was like it was leaking, and then I couldn't figure out how to get the little thing, the mouthpiece. I couldn't figure out how to maneuver that through the bag. Like I've never used one of those before. And it was time to go because Poconos is not like next door to me. So it was quite a long drive and I had to get going. And it was raining pretty badly where I was at in New York. But if I ever did something like that again, there's no way I would not have one of those bags with me. Because I that was the worst race experience that I've ever had in my life. And even though there's nothing I could do about the heat except for signing up for the earlier time, um, the water part of it would have made a big difference as well. If I had an adequate amount of water and I wasn't like running up a mountain dehydrated, I think my experience would have been quite a bit better than it was. Hi, Ma. Sometimes when I'm Sometimes when people hear me saying hi ma when I'm on a live, people assume that I'm talking about my mom. So I don't like saying it. I'm like hi ma and people are like, "Oh, you're talking to your mom?" I'm like, "No." I like how you and Cass have the beef and she's the only mod here. And she just got a wrench. Didn't you just get a wrench or was that on my other page? I can't keep track. I can't give wrenches on StreamYard. So the only time I can give wrenches, you have to blame Cass and Ma actually for why nobody else has wrenches. Because if they weren't making fun of the thumbnails, then I would have gone live on the regular YouTube app, and I'd have the opportunity to give out other wrenches. But because of the online bullying, I used StreamYard instead. But anyways, that's it, y'all. Thanks for joining me. For anyone who's interested in Big Brother, in the next maybe 4 hours, we're gonna have like a little Big Brother discussion on my other page. On my other page, Mindful Reality. If you have not followed that page, go ahead and do so now. And I will talk to y'all later. Have a great evening.